All right, we are 1 week away. 1 week away. 1 week from today. Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans, they will have to fill out a 53-man roster for the Texans. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. How close does it look like they are to making that decision? Plus, there were some hints today at practice that make you kind of lean in the direction of a certain left tackle starting. Also, some really, really good dialogue as well. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Let's just start with what went down at practice today. And let's just give some obs of what was going on, what matters most, etc. Here is today's practice obs. And I would say the thing that stuck out the most today was that Ariante Ursery, the right side stuff is a thing of the past. And Ariante Ursery was the first team left tackle. And then Cam Robinson, who returned fully, when he was playing first team left tackle, Ariante Ursery was the second team left tackle. Now, some of you say, well, what is that? What exactly does that mean? Let me explain. And a lot of you that have been following along all of camp, y'all realize that Ursery, when Robinson was first in there, was going from the left side to the right side, or from the right side to the left side. He was with the first team at right tackle, and then the third team at left tackle. So he was essentially LT2, RT1. We've seen some pretty decent stuff from Ariante Ursery at left tackle since Cam Robinson's been out. And now he's the first team left tackle, and then he's the second team left tackle, and he didn't even take a single rep on the right side. I think the cover's kind of been blown there. And I don't know how they feel about it, but the cover seems to have been blown at this point. And it seems like they're looking at Ariante Ursery in his natural position. They're looking at him as a left tackle. Now, does that mean he starts over Cam Robinson? I would have a hard time imagining that he doesn't start. So unless today was just like a one-off, it appears that just based on what we saw today, that Ariante Ursery, they're focused on him being on the left side. So that's one of the biggest observations from today as we were watching. Other one, and this is a small thing, but it does matter when it comes to what they have to decide a week from today, whenever they trim down the 53. And that's Juice Scruggs is shuffling. So this might be a hint as well that Juice Scruggs is currently on the inside of the, as DeMeco calls it, 9 guys on the offensive line. Because Juice Scruggs has been kind of locked in at right guard, team 2 right guard the last couple of weeks. And now they're kind of shuffling him between right and left, which would be part of the appeal of keeping Juice Scruggs around, would be that once sensitive word of versatility. But when you're talking about your ninth lineman or eighth, however you want to look at it, that's pretty much what you like to see. You like to see the versatility. So they were shuffling around Juice Scruggs. Other stuff that stuck out today at practice. So Dameon Pierce is I don't know if he's going to return kicks. Seems like Berrios would be that guy, but Dameon Pierce was the first guy on the field today. He was returning kicks. Cam Robinson practiced today, as did Foley Fatukasi, as did Derek Barnett. And Fatukasi and Barnett had really good days. The first team offensive line was what we've been seeing since Cam Robinson was out. The second team offensive line, you had Cam Robinson at left tackle, Deculus at right tackle. And then you had Jalen Thomas, Patterson, and Juice Scruggs. CJ Gardner-Johnson was getting some work in on the side, so we see him moving around a little bit. Got to wonder when he's going to be back. And we are told now that I think the team periods for the media are going to be done after today. So, after today's practice. So the in-depth stuff, practices are about to kind of cool off. Although the joint practice with Detroit, there will be team periods there. Cody Stutes will be representing Houston football. He'll have his boots on the ground. He'll hop on a plane tomorrow, and we'll cover that on SNL. So be on the lookout for Cody, who's going to give you the best observations possible when it comes to that on SNL and with Houston football. So be on the lookout for that. Some good sound, by the way, after the game today, or after practice today, that we'll get to. I got some answers to some pretty decent questions. We also can confirm, as we suspected, that the capped again. DeMeco Ryans told a little bit of a fib, which is great. I don't know if it's great, because I support lying with a purpose. And I know you don't have to tell us everything, but keeping it real gone wrong, not a good look for DeMeco. But there's another example of that. So what else did we have in practice? We had a 7-on-7 where Dalton Schultz caught a pass from CJ Stroud low across the middle. We had a Christian Kirk slant from the outside right that Stroud completed. Then we had a Xavier Hutchinson's having a good camp. He's WR3 right now, just based on performance in camp, and we'll see what that looks like. But he had a deep dig on Sting, nice little hitch. Then Kirk out of the slot. And then Mills came in. I thought it's interesting at cornerback 2, D'Angelo Ross is getting more reps now. It was the Smiths. It feels like they might be starting to trust Ross a little bit more as a true corner. And they're looking at Tremont Smith more in other special teams areas. Don't quote me on that, but D'Angelo Ross does seem to be getting, for some reason, they just like him. I don't know why, but they do. And then we really just had some slop, Berrios up the middle, and then a drop bunny interception by Jalen Mills, the safety. In team 1, the world famous practice Chubb stuff. Then a Will Anderson pressure, a dump to Hutchinson. He was completely swallowed up by Jalen Petrie. Pause. Trent Brown, we saw him walking on the side. Seems kind of far for Trent Brown to step on the field, but he was walking on the side. Then there was some pressure, but a nice out completion to Knoll. Kind of felt like one of those that hung in the air, but it ended up getting there. Then we had a swarm sack and a 33-yard field goal from Kaimi Fairbairn. With the second team, you had Cam Robinson at tackle, Foley Fatukasi with a sack. Kind of seems like he just stayed in his lane and the game came to him, which is what DeMeco Ryans wants. Then a pass interference on Arthur Maulet. I don't know what Arthur Maulet did to the refs, but for whatever reason, they really like to target number 22 when it comes to throwing flags. Then we had a procedure penalty, and that blah was capped off by a 43-yard field goal and a good tackle on 3rd and 12, or what would have been a tackle by Arthur Maulet. Well, I don't know whether he's going to make the team or not. We had some Tremont Smith kick returning. Frank Ross seemed to like what he saw there. Pierce back again. And Harris was playing a little bit of special teams. I don't know if Harris is going to be starting on special teams, but Harris was playing some special teams. Christian Harris, for those of you that don't know him on a last name basis like that. Then we go to team 2. Team 2, you had a new O-line to start team 2. This time you had Robinson at left tackle, and then everything else was the same. Howard at right tackle. They did bring in Scruggs at right guard as well. So Scruggs getting right guard first team reps, and Titus Howard staying at right tackle, and Robinson at left tackle. There was another suspect PI on Arthur Maulet. Just getting picked on. Then you had a short out to Stover. He goes up and gets it a little bit high. Goes up and gets it. Then Pierce up the middle. A penalty dump to Watson. And then Mills comes in. Ursery's the LT2. And nothing really to report on that. Just kind of blah. Then team 3, we cap off practice on team 3. Ursery back with the ones. There was a misfire to Xavier Hutchinson, Chubb stuff, and then a Christian Harris sack. How about that? A nice Christian Harris stunt sack right up the middle, right in the face of CJ Stroud. And then you had a swarm sack by Darrell Taylor and Derek Barnett. And then Derek Barnett just kind of grown Manning Ursery. I think Derek Barnett's one of those guys, kind of a hardo, tough SOB. He was taking Ursery out to the woodshed a little bit. And you could kind of see it. And that's good to see. And it's good to see Barnett doing his thing. But yeah. Then there was a Daniil Hunter pressure. I thought CJ did a good job of throwing this up in the air. And he drew a pass interference on Kamari Lassiter. Then there was a procedure penalty. And then it was just kind of a dud of practice after that. I will say one observation, like when they're in extreme hurry up, Dare Ogunbowale is the guy up there. So I think even in Nick Caley's system, he seems to trust Dare Ogunbowale to do the same things that Bobby Slowick trusts him to do, which may speak more to the Texans' ability or lack thereof to bring in running backs. But Dare Ogunbowale is a trusted guy when it comes to the Texans and what they do and don't decide to do at running back. Like Dare Ogunbowale, they trust him in like the important situations. Like anytime they're practicing something situational in team, it seems like Dare Ogunbowale gets those reps. He cannot get a single rep. And then whenever it's situational, whether it's one first down to win or less than a minute to drive up the field, like they trust Dare Ogunbowale to do his thing and to perform. So that speaks highly of him, and maybe it speaks lowly of what they are when it comes to the running back position. On the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Shout out to HDAV Traveler up there in Austin doing his thing. A little Sturgis action. Motorcycles. Wag says, what's up? Sorry, been away. Thanks for the updates. Hey, don't apologize to me, my friend. Just be sure to go back and watch it. Rewind. Do whatever you got to do when it comes to the two. But those are the practice reactions. One of the top national media writers, I think he's probably a top 3 football writer right now. He was in town. He has a close relationship with a lot of the guys that are in that building right now. And we're going to go through his observations. And as people who watch and react and cover the squad, we're going to decide how astute these observations are. First, though, a DeMeco fib, a Nick Caley truth, and some good stuff from Frank Ross on a number of things. Let's start with the DeMeco fib. I've said this 100 times. I think DeMeco Ryans is a player's coach. I think DeMeco Ryans is a really good coach. I think DeMeco Ryans, though, has a little bit of paranoia when it comes to the media, which is cool. That's fine. No issue with it. Still going to do the job. Still going to ask questions that might annoy him when the time calls for it. Not just going to ask a question to hear my voice. But if I think there's something that I want to ask or I want to talk about, we know where it's going to end up right here. And sometimes he's going to give decent answers, and sometimes he's just going to kind of spin around whenever he's overthinking things. And I think DeMeco has a tendency to kind of do that, especially when it comes to injuries. But I thought this was actually hilarious. When I asked DeMeco Ryans about the 53-man roster and what that process is like. And we said this at the time, but it's still funny to look back at, especially given what Frank Ross said today. But here's DeMeco Ryans talking about the 53-man roster.
Is there a point where y'all kind of intensify the process of picking 53 guys? I know we talk about it a lot, but is there how hard is it this year compared to years past? Seems like there's a little more depth, but is there a point where you and Nick say, okay, this is our first version, second, third? What's the process like?
For me, I honestly am not thinking about the 53. Just thinking about guys getting better. And that.
Come on, man. He goes on to say, when it comes time for us to select 53 guys, we'll sit down and think about it. That's crazy. Like that's crazy. And I think DeMeco's a good coach. I think he's a competent coach. There's zero chance that he's not thinking about the 53-man roster every day. He would be a bad coach if he weren't. And when you're building a roster, especially at this point in camp, you got to be thinking about this. Like, what can this guy do? What can that guy do? And it's kind of an eye roll. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just funny that the cap likes to cap like that. Thank God for Frank Ross, though. Because I asked Frank Ross about his outlook when building a 53 as a special teamer, and he admitted they talk about this every day, which they should, and DeMeco knows they do. Don't get paranoid, DeMeco. I'm not asking you to give me like the lineup or the game plan. I'm just asking. 53-man roster. Gave a little bit of a good answer after that, but the cap was capping before that. Here's what Frank Ross said about it.
So what is that from your perspective, like when they're making the 53? Like the offensive guy has an opinion, DeMeco and Caserio decide. Like, how do you make a case for someone that maybe is a special teams guy that doesn't play as much offense or defense? Like, what is your pitch for that?
For sure, yeah. Man, am I a good salesman?
I don't
know. Where's my pen at? Okay, this pen right here. Let me tell you about this pen. So no, we it is a truthfully like daily. When I mean daily, I mean daily conversation that has to take place. So the roles, and as things are sorting out, like, all right, this guy's not gonna come off the field first, second, and third down, whether it's O or D. All right, so let's say he gets benched. What can he do for me if he's gonna be in a backup role? All right, then he ends up, being a full-time starter. So those guys that have specific roles are kicking game player roles, and I say, here's the best version of that to go win on fourth down. But if they can't play a lick of offense or defense, you're not a football player, and you're not going to be able to then step into a prominent role when we need you on the other side of the ball that is more, we understand we're the third phase. That's okay. But to me, you have to be able to be a first, second, and third down starter at any point in time and be great in the kicking game. And then if you are that, and like, what is your backup role or one phase, or, hey, you're going to be a sub when a guy goes down. We need a full team of guys that can do that. For me, I'm just always evaluating and projecting to Coach Nick Burke, Caley Burke, what a role player can do for me, and is he a suitable sub fill-in for you guys when it's needed.
All right, there you go. Every day we're having the conversation. Yeah, that's good. That's good for Frank Ross. It's honest. It's an unnecessary fib by DeMeco. Of course he's thinking about the 53. He's a good coach. He's smart. He's competent. There's no like competitive advantage lost or anything like that. And just saying, yeah, we think about that all the time. It's going to be a tough decision. But it happens, and it's amusing. It's funny, actually. I think it's actually pretty entertaining and pretty funny. On the super chat,
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Jacob Hyatt says, pour one out for JJ Taylor. JJ Taylor, we hardly knew you. I actually thought he had some pretty tough runs the other day. Damn shame, man. If he was going to go down like this, when he got that ball on the 1 yard line, would have been nice to go out with the touchdown. Instead, they had to bring in British Brooks and have him cap it off. But JJ Taylor, we hardly knew you. Let's be honest, we might see him again. He feels like he might be one of those guys who just ends up back, like, who knows? Like, it just some of these guys, I feel like we haven't even seen the end of Xavier Johnson. But yeah, pour one out for JJ Taylor in that RB room. Wag says, any updates on Harrison Bryant? He just looks like a guy. Like, there's no way this guy's really that good of a blocker. I know the stats said like a few years ago that had to have been like max protect Flacco's type of stuff. He was barely better than Schultz last year. He's just a guy. Hopefully he can be playable. Hopefully he can figure some stuff out, but he was rocking number 88 is all I can tell you. And that's really all that I really noticed from him in practice. He's a throw-in. Like the Mechie trade was as much about getting in the 5th round and giving Philly back their 6. Like, you didn't, they didn't like feel like they got something awesome in Harrison Bryant. They just got a tight end that hopefully can be playable. AJ says Frank Ross is something. I don't know. Grady Travis, no idea who that is. But yeah. Adrian V says, I feel like Berrios can be one of those trustful wide receivers on third down, similar to what Woods was last season. Ouch. Now, the good thing about it is Robert Woods, by the end of last season, was like he was at the top end of your depth chart when it came to wide receivers. That's not going to be the case. So we think Berrios will be what, wide receiver 6 or 7? If Robert Woods were your 6th or 7th last year, I think you would feel okay. But yeah, I didn't really look at him as like that trusty of a guy. But yeah. Speaking of wide receivers, the Texans did make some moves today that became official before practice. They signed Cornell Powell, who didn't know where to stretch. Like, that's how raw he was today. He came out in the stretch line, didn't really know where to stretch. I don't blame him. But he was very anxious. And then they signed wide receiver Juwan Winfrey. I'll be honest. If he was out there, I didn't notice it. And then they waived Xavier Johnson and released J.J. Taylor, which was previously mentioned in the super chat. I think this is just an example of needing bodies this week, whether it's against the Lions in the joint practices or the Lions in the preseason game. Probably more likely in the preseason game, just to see what they can do and maybe if they can hang around on the practice squad. Their work at wide receiver is done. Like, they know who they're keeping. We wonder if it's going to be 6 or 7, but I'm pretty sure they have a good idea of who they're keeping. So they're just bringing in bodies for this week to see how that will go and how they'll be able to handle that. Other news from the Texans. Nick Caley confirmed it. I asked him today, where are you calling games, my man? And this is what Nick Caley had to say.
You've called one in the booth and one on the field. Have you made a decision where you're going to call games during the regular season?
Yeah, I'll be down on the field. Feel good about it. Feel good about both, but I'll be down on the field moving forward.
Was it a little harder to bring the juice to the game from upstairs?
No, communication's good either way. I just like, I like to be able to look guys in the eyes and be able to walk over immediately and talk to guys, make adjustments with the coaches, and be able to look guys in the eyes when I communicate with them. Just a little bit more efficient, and I can cut a few steps out that way.
There you go. Cut a few steps out that way. So there you go. Nick Caley confirms that he will be on the field. No preference here. It's really just about what makes him comfortable. There's a lot of examples of guys that are really good at calling games in the booth. There's a lot of examples of guys that are really good at calling games on the field. Some guys have like bounced from booth to field over the course of their career. It's an important thing because you need that guy, Nick Caley. You need him to be good this year. And in order for him to be good, he's obviously going to have to be comfortable. Nick. So he's going to try to do that on the field, which I think that's probably good, especially for someone who likes to coach and be hands-on like that. So it does carry a big-ass binder, though. So maybe they can set up like a little work area for him or something like that, like a corner desk. I don't know if that's allowed or not, but Nick Caley will call the games on the field. He confirmed that. No gamesmanship there. I don't think there's anything to gain. So that's where Nick Caley will be. He will be on the field for sure. Also, when it comes to Nick Caley has got some decisions to make when it comes to the running back. And the Dameon Pierce situation is interesting because we asked the question about Dameon Pierce, and it's like, well, does he have to prove anything? Does he have to be on the field to be trusted in a game? I starting to think they just trust Dameon Pierce to go out there and do whatever the hell it is they think he can do. And Nick Caley seems to be a big fan. We'll know officially in a week. But this is me asking Nick Caley, does Dameon need in-game action, whether it be joint practice or preseason, for you to trust him in a game that actually matters? Here's what Nick said.
Is it important for Dameon to get in-game action before you trust him in a game in your system?
Yeah, I would say this. Damien's played a good amount of football. He's a physical, violent runner. You get to see him out here. It's not like this is an unknown commodity. So whatever we feel is best for the reps, that'll be it. But, I've watched Dameon. I've had an appreciation for him for a while. And, I think he wants to go out there and just be at his best every single day. And I'm excited to get him back out here with us.
All right, there you go. He's excited to get him back out there. So, they talk about Dameon Pierce like he's on the team. You always got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But they talk about him like that. Now, my thing is, what about the running back committee? How are you going to juggle a running back committee? Because Nick Chubb's not carrying the ball 25 times a game. We know that. I don't know. The Nick Chubb defenders and the Nick Chubb mafia is pretty irrational. So maybe some of the Nick Chubb mafia thinks that he can still carry the rock 25 times. I just don't. I don't think so. I think you're going to need a little bit of a committee with Woody Marks, Dameon Pierce, and Dare Gumbawale. And I'm moving forward as if Joe Mixon's not playing until they tell me that he's going to play. They're going to be sensitive about it until you tell me that Joe Mixon's playing. And even when you tell me that Joe Mixon's playing, I'm going to have my doubts. I'm going to move forward like it's a committee. So I asked Nick Caley about juggling a committee. This is what he had to say about this array of backs.
What goes into, from an OC perspective, kind of filling out the running back position and going by committee or by odd man? Is that just something that happens in game? Do you go into a game saying, we want this guy to do this and that guy to do that?
Yeah, I think, we have a very versatile group of guys as it is right now, as you guys can see. So I think that's a week-to-week deal, a field deal, but we have a lot of trust in whoever's out there. I think you see with that group, they've all, they've taken care of the football in their opportunities. They've been stout in blitz pickup. I've been very impressed with that group in terms of how they fit the window, get pads under pads, protect inside out. The things, the core axioms that we're asking, they've showcased, and I think that, they understand the intent of what we're doing. So I've been happy with all of them.
You hear that clap?
Nick.
Core axioms, man. This guy could be a damn football professor with some of the stuff he talks about. You hear him break down the multiple layers of the offensive lineman blocking. He talks about the base. He talks about core axioms. That's core axioms. Let's put that in a note. I want to ask him about core axioms. Can you tell me what core axioms are? Core axioms. Caley. Core axioms. We're gonna get a breakdown of core axioms. Some of these terms this dude uses, especially now that he's gotten a little bit comfortable. I think he has a little bit more grasp of his offense. But this core axioms is breakdown of the way that they talk about the offensive line. It's interesting. He's an interesting fellow, that Nick guy. Nick. On the super chats, Wags asks, "Are we keeping four RBs? If so, who?" We broken this down. I think it's probably Chubb, Dare, Marks, and Pierce. And then if Mixon's good to go, then Mixon. But as people are saying in the chat, it seems kind of weird. D1J says Texans over under 12.5 wins under. They're not winning. I wouldn't bet on them. If you give me that over under, the over under in Vegas is 9.5. So if you think the over is there, you're wasting your time asking me. If you think they're going to win 13 games, you need to go to Vegas or just find you a bookie or just go on Sleeper or something like that. But yeah, 12.5 that's pretty high, my friend. Pretty high. Not too many teams win 13 games. Zuko says, from an Austin, Texans native Estonian, my parents visited the H today and brought me back Gringo's green sauce for some nostalgia. Today was a good day. Yeah, some people like frown upon gringos. I know that it's not like the most popular among the Hispanic crowd here. But I think a little gringos every once in a while is nice. You can't threaten me with a good time. I don't really have a problem with gringos. We'll get the national outlook of the Texans in a second, and we'll assess how we feel about that. Because I don't think most national people have as good of a grasp of the squad as we do on this channel and at Houston Football. But first, let's hear Frank Ross, and this is just a little bit more about Brevin Jordan. We'll skip the Brevin Jordan. We don't have to say it. But basically, Frank Ross said that Brevin Jordan was a good special teams player. And he said that they need mid-sized bodies to take a spot, which, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Think linebacker, think tight end when it comes to that. We got some Gringos fans in there. Yeah, Gringos goes in, man. I don't care what anybody says. I think Gringos goes ham for sure. Oh, there you go. C21 Savage. I'm born and raised in Mexico, but I don't mind a little Crunchwrap Supreme here and there. Oh, you're talking Taco Bell? Yeah, don't threaten me with some Taco Bell. Don't threaten me with some T-Bizzle. So Albert Breer was at Texans practice. And the thing about a guy like Albert Breer, who I think is probably one of the top 3 NFL writers right now, is, man, he gets access. And when he's here, you see the coach go talk to him. You see the GM go talk to him. You see the OC go talk to him. And he's known Caserio and Caley for a while. And he gets a lot. I mean, he talks to a lot of people. He gets a lot of information. So as I was watching this kind of go down, I just wondered, okay, what's he going to write about? And I think there's probably a feature due before the season starts typically. But in the spirit of off season, like what would content be without a list from Albert Breer of SI? He put together his top 5 thoughts about the Texans 2025 season. And I want to go thought for thought, THOUGHT, not THOT, and just kind of assess how good of a grasp Albert Breer has of a squad, one of 32 that he covers. You can never expect someone nationally to fully have the complete picture, but when you have that type of access, there should be a pretty good grab. So observation number 1 from Albert Breer is he said that the depth at the skill spots has shown up. I would agree with that. Now, I wouldn't agree with his assessment that Nick Chubb looks like his young self. I think that's crazy. I don't even think DeMeco believes that. But the depth at the skill spots has definitely shown up. I mean, they just traded John Mechie, which we anticipated, but that kind of shows that. And they have a lot of running backs, and there's definitely improved depth. Even if it's not overly significant, there is depth at the skill spot. So I would agree with that. Thought 2, he said Stroud and Caley must vibe. That's 100% true. I mean, that's perhaps the most important relationship in sports in Houston, not just in football. So I would agree with that. That's TBD. We don't know what it's going to look like. They might not know what it's going to look like. He's going to call his first game in a few weeks, but that's 100% true. They must vibe. Thought 3, he said the offensive line question is real. That is the concern. I would agree. I would say there is some optimism with the Cole Popovich culture. But the OL question is definitely real. His 4th observation is the defensive line is deep and it's a potential strength. I would agree with that. So Albert Breer's kind of hitting it out of the park right now. And then thought 5, depth at safety and nickel are the biggest questions. I would agree with that too. So I think Albert Breer does a really good job. We always like to follow the source and who you can trust. Like last year, she's kind of cooled off a little bit, but last year Diana Rossini, she was on a heater when it came to Texans news and breaking news and all that, and it was clear that whatever her sources were, they were pretty solid. I think as far as like the national thing, there was always a joke with Albert Breer and B.O.B. where B.O.B. was texting him and saying, "You up?" and telling him everything there is to know. I think Albert Breer is very much in the know. So if you're looking at like national writers to like give you a grasp of maybe not necessarily reality, but what the building wants you to believe or the information that's coming there, I think Albert Breer is a guy to check out. Other news in the NFL that impacts the Texans: LaFar Jackson, not the quarterback in Indianapolis. LaFar Jackson is Dunzo, a.k.a. Anthony Richardson. And as Barstool Sports so eloquently put it, the saddest QB battle of the season is finally over. Daniel Jones is QB1 for the Colts. People say they're starting to feel bad for the franchise. It's been a tough run since Andrew Luck retired. That was a tough day. I remember Lamar Miller tore his ACL, and then it was like, oh, well, Andrew Luck retired. Well, let's just throw that aside when that's the big news. We knew Daniel Jones was starting. That was very clear. Like Daniel Jones, and there's still a portion of Anthony Richardson supporters. I saw Ryan Clark. Only reason I saw it is because Stephen Holder, who covers the Colts, who's kind of carrying water for Anthony Richardson too. He put Ryan Clark's video up there, and they're still talking about this. Like he said, Ryan Clark said, you know what Daniel Jones is. You know what Anthony Richardson is. Like we know, you know what that is. It's a roller coaster that's gonna have you wind up puking on your shirt, and it's not gonna work out. But you know what that is. Gardner Minshew damn near went to the playoffs with Shane Steichen, and Daniel Jones might be able to do the same. But if you're still holding on to hope for LaFar Jackson, aka Anthony Richardson, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know what that's about. That's a hell of, I mean, that is loyal. That's ride or die right there. That's like Gucci Mane's girl loyal. Like that's Aaron Hernandez's wife. When he was still alive, loyal. If you're still holding off hope for Anthony Richardson, I mean, if your last name's not Richardson and you're still holding on hope and carrying water for Anthony Richardson, you might just have desire to make your last name Richardson. You might be trying to get him to put a ring on it, because I don't know what the hell anyone's watching to think that. He's never played high quality football since he's been in the public eye. Like even at Florida, it wasn't awesome. I mean, there was a stretch here or there, but then there were the lows. It was the exact same thing. Same thing with the Indianapolis Colts. So I am flabbergasted that, you see guys who cover the squad, Stephen Holder and Ryan Clark, still kind of holding off hope for Anthony Richardson. I think that's crazy. I know there's not much of a ceiling for Daniel Jones, and Stephen did do a good job of breaking that down, the ceiling and the floor. I don't think Anthony Richardson has that high of a ceiling. Just because he makes like a oh my gosh play and then 2 holy bleep plays before that, that's not like a high ceiling. A high ceiling is like you can do it consistently. He hasn't done it. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. Like his durability didn't get enough attention. Everyone was focused on Bryce Young's size. This guy always got hurt. So I don't know where this Anthony Richardson thing is coming from, but it's a hell of a loyal group that he's got with him. He's got some ride or dies. So good for him and good for them. I actually think Daniel Jones might be able to get done what Shane Steichen needs done. Sometimes when you get in that quarterback hell, it can be tough to get out when you're in Indianapolis. It can be tough to get out. It's a hell of a place to be. And it appears to be where they are. All right, so tomorrow, SNL at 4:00. Cody Stutes will be in Detroit. Texans got to practice in the morning. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a lot more on the night stream. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. We got you covered. We're a week away from the 53. We're a few weeks away from the start of the season. Business has already picked up. It's only going to get better. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.